Welcome to the Freight Directory podcast, covering all things related to freight, logistics and supply chain, both in Australia and internationally.
Welcome to the Freight Directory podcast. I'm Christine Contos. This is another episode of the Freight Directory podcast, and today our guests are Josephine and Joe Meli. They are the founders and CEOs of My Freight Career. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited to talk to you guys. So there's so much we can talk about in terms of what you guys do, what your business does, what they offer to the logistics industry. But let's start a little bit with, tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, where did you grow up? What did you do growing up? Were you close to the wharfs? Were you close to the airport? Was it something logistics sort of hung around the background and you sort of didn't realise much about it, but eventually, you were in the industry all of a sudden?
Absolutely. Well, I grew up around Brighton. So my father was a fisherman, which meant we lived relatively close to the water, which meant we had a bird's eye view of the airport.
Of course, and all the planes landing
absolutely.
and taking off. How fantastic.
The smell of aircraft fuel and the tyres, and I loved it growing up.
And we haven't moved since because we're still close to the airport.
So I like to be close to the airport and the seaport. I don't know why. But I took an interest in logistics or freight forwarding. I did economics at school, but my parents were involved with importing nets. My father was a fisherman.
Oh, wow.
So I sometimes sort of, when I was quite young, would help them and, call the broker and find out where the stuff was, if it had been cleared, if it had arrived.
So you helped out. Was that because mum and dad were migrants and then you helped the language? So you became a translator. You also then had to get involved in the family business.
Exactly right. So I would be the speaking person for my parents, and I always had it in the back of my mind. I did work experience at Alitalia at the airport when I was like in year 10, and I did a travel agency sort of course as well. So I always wanted to do something with travel or aircraft or that kind of thing. So that's sort of where I started. The path led me to apply for a job close to home, Mascot, and then it progressed from there.
Oh, wow. So you started working in the industry somewhat. Alitalia is an airline, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I went for 2 jobs at 2 freight forwarding companies and got both and chose one. And that was my introduction to freight forwarding full time.
Amazing. And all that experience in the family business no doubt helped.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was an introduction. It wasn't huge, but definitely an introduction, some insight.
Fabulous. What about you, Joe?
Mine's far more boring than that. So I grew up out at Bankstown out west. I had finished my last year of school and I went overseas to Italy with my mother for like 4 months. To get that out of my system. I had a really good time, but when I came back, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'll be quite honest. I looked in the local paper and like so many stories before us, there was a role in the Torch, was our local paper, for a house clerk or a runner, which is what we bigged back then. The reason they called them runners is because you ran from airport to customs house to other freight companies and picked up cargo.
That's right, yeah.
Or you went in the city and you needed to see freight documents and so on, because there was no mobile phones.
That's right.
The technology was very basic back then.
So all documents.
All documents, stamps, all this old-fashioned stuff.
Yeah.
But I went for a job and I remember it was for a company called LEP International. And the reason I got the job is because when we did our HSC, we had to do this collective thing called Young Australians. And we worked with a company called Tube Makers and we developed these things called cool stools and became third in Australia. You sell it, you market it, and you do really well. That got me the job as a house clerk, and that was my introduction into freight forwarding.
Yeah.
And, from that point on, I was kind of, entrapped in this whole logistics world, which is a thing that you love or you hate,
True.
But it's really exciting and the rest is history. It's been an incredible ride.
True, it is it is an industry you either like or you don't like. And it's so true in what you're saying. A lot of people fall into it then realise there's much more to it than you could even know because it's such a huge industry. And I think the statistics are that globally it employs 1 in 5 people, and that's major. That's a lot of people in the logistics industry.
I think in Australia, if you include all forms of transport, stevedoring, trucking, warehousing, planes, ships, it's like 14% of GDP. So it's pretty significant. We're an island.
Yeah.
So we need to trade.
It's very significant, that's right. So tell me, so you both fell into the logistics industry in some way. How did you get from there to let's start up this magnificent business called My Freight Career, which is a registered trading organisation, and that's what you do. You place people, you help train people into roles. You can talk a little bit more about it than me. How did you get there?
Well, we have a recruitment company as well, FRM Staff, and many years ago when we started, we saw that the workforce in international logistics was getting a little bit older, and we were sort of struggling to get new entrants into the industry, and we thought, well, if we create this wonderful traineeship, we firstly provide the new entrants with a qualification, which hadn't ever been done before in Australia, and it's really highly regarded in international markets. You know, you can't get a job in a lot of places.
So you got the qualification approved. That's a lot of work in itself.
Yeah.
So when we started, there was only a Certificate 3 in road transport. Very hard to go to local schools or to anyone to try and attract talent in international freight forwarding when the qualification end of it's going to say road transport.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we worked incredibly hard to create, write and get accepted the freight forwarding qualification, which is now recognised qualification. So you can do it at TAFE or you can do it with us.
Yep.
It's the same thing. That's what an RTO is. But that was the beginning of some of the path, but I'll let Joe continue on where we started from.
Yeah, so we thought we can create this and it'll create a pool of talent for FRM staff as well. So we can generate that. Unfortunately, it wasn't very successful for FRM staff because once the trainees had completed, the program was so successful that the host companies chose to keep those trainees, which is really wonderful, like in itself, because they've groomed them, they've trained them to be part of their team, to know all their practices, and they've almost tried them for that 2-year period. They know who they are, and the trainee also knows that they fit into that environment. They've been supported, and they know their job back to front at that stage. Yeah. So they choose to stay. Most of our trainees are taken on at the end of the traineeship. So that was the primary reason of increasing, potential candidates in the industry, introducing new people into the industry and creating that beautiful qualification that you can walk away with and know that you've got that certificate at the end of it.
And people want that qualification.
Yeah, and we looked
they?
at a lot of our clients like DHL and Schenkers and so on. Back in there, like in Germany or places like that, you could not walk into a freight forwarder and get a job unless you had some sort of qualification.
Yes,
it's just not accepted.
Yeah.
So we knew that was part of maybe a way of getting acceptance here in Australia, because a lot of our clients understood that from that framework. But it was incredibly tough because they'd never been done before. So we had to create the narrative to say, this is how a traineeship works, this is the expectations, and this is why it's good for the business, for the industry, and also for the trainee themselves. So most traineeships, you do 4 or 5 visits a year. We do about 40.
Oh, amazing.
We understand that to be a good freight forwarder or logistics person, it's pretty intensive. There's a lot more involved than just moving a box.
Absolutely.
And we could go into that's a whole different discussion when you think
we'll
about customs.
Get there. Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
We did that as a preface, and we got good support from a lot of our industry. And we've had it's been 24 years. We've had over 3,300 qualifications that were issued in that time. So of them, there would have been over 2,000 trainees that we've introduced Australia-wide
Yeah.
into the industry.
Well, you found a gap. There was a gap there, and you said we're a small island. What's the rest of the world doing? And if we need to get to that, because when you have staff that are trained on the job, you have a better quality of candidates working for your company.
And there's validation, so it validates someone's skill set. So we all know someone can go and say, oh yeah, I've got 3 years experience, I'm really good at my job.
Yeah.
And they've been maybe really good at interviewing or process, but by doing the traineeship,
the technicalities of the job, the process. And there is a lot to know because there's a lot of touch points when you think of goods coming from overseas, from one warehouse and it landing into another warehouse. At this end, there's many, many touch points, and they're quite complex touch points. And, it's not black and white. It's not simple. So, you need to know what you're doing and understand what you're doing. Yeah.
But I think you can continue on from here.
But we're also not only a registered training organisation, but we're a group training company, which means we employ the trainees as well.
Oh, wow. So you've got the trainees that work with the...
and then they're hosted out by a company. So that meant all the employment, all of that stuff is completed by us.
Oh,
so
amazing.
It took away an element of responsibility with the host company, because we took the onus of all of those, the mentoring and that sort of thing.
That's right.
Payroll responsibilities and so on.
Yeah. So you do the payroll as well.
Yeah.
So you place people.
Yes.
You
employ them. And we basically lease them back out. So they're a host employer.
You train them and give them a qualification. Yep. And you actually help, because one of the things I hear constantly is in logistic is, there aren't enough people with the right qualifications. So you actually provide candidates that are being trained on the job, but also being trained to understand the industry.
Yes.
That's a big, because I know businesses don't have time for that.
No,
we don't have time for that.
Huge
so it's
responsibility.
A huge responsibility.
Yeah. And that support that we hopefully give the trainees when they need them, because, people have all sorts of issues and things. So to be there to support them and see them complete that qualification is just so rewarding for us.
Oh, I can imagine. But, the mentoring is really important as well.
Absolutely.
Because you can be really good at your qualification, but there's life skills that you've got to understand and learn, and you do as a young person need mentoring through that,
Absolutely.
70% of what we do is soft skills.
Yeah.
Communication, conflict. A lot of the people that join the industry, and we've been probably through 4 generations of 18-year-olds now in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And they're very different, and they're all impacted by different things. Social media is a big thing now compared to 25 years ago. And Joe's 100% right. A lot of our time is spent mentoring the trainees to know
that's a huge
how to work, how to communicate in the workplace, and how to navigate that, because a lot of them go from school.
Yeah, I know. We've all done it too, right? You come out of school and you think you know everything.
Yeah,
you kind of waltz into places with an attitude, and 3 or 4 years on, you've worked, you've experienced real life, and you're a lot more grounded, aren't you?
And you sort of look back and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
I know. What a little upstart I was, what I mean?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Where did the inspiration come from? I know you built this magnificent business and an awesome team, you two, 24 years to build that together and to have a family together. I mean, kudos to you. Well done, guys, right? It's amazing. Where did the inspiration come from, though, before you went, we can see this gap? Was it that you could see the gap, or was it it was something that was burning inside of you anyway, going, we really need this,
For me, I love it. I absolutely love freight forwarding. I just, I look at an aircraft and I think what's in its belly. I look at a vessel and I think, what's that carrying? And, I love it. And I think it's exciting. And I think, as soon as you take away the fact that it's not just boxes, they're not
definitely
just
not just
containers.
boxes and containers.
It's somebody's livelihood. You know, it's somebody's human remains. It's the perishable goods. It means something. It's our makeup. It's our clothes that come in. And I absolutely loved it. I always loved it. I loved the control, particularly of exports. So to me, I really loved to try and impart that. That was the biggest thing for me. It was like, I really love it. I'm going to help you love it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know about Jo.
And being an island, so far from everyone else, it actually connects us to the world, doesn't it? Yeah.
I just think that by offering something that's structured and validated, you know, we always wanted to see if we could leave a legacy, because everyone works all their lives. And when you walk away from it, you think, okay, I've just spent 30, 40 years of my time. What have I got to show for it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I know that we can walk away now and that we created something that was never been done before.
Absolutely.
And we have got trainees that are now friends. I've had a phone call from a trainee now. He's actually started his own business. He now wants a trainee. So seeing that validates in itself that the program obviously works.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that Jo's right. When I got into freight, the naivety of not knowing how vibrant and chaotic and crazy and ever-changing that it is.
Challenging.
And challenging, but also the friendships you build up globally.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, what people don't realise is that what we do is a global process. It's not just a local one. You know, and we're at the forefront of technology. I remember Jo had a telex machine, the first one. It was like as big as his table with little ribbons coming out of it. And we were just standing around it saying, we're talking to someone overseas now at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the first Qantas flight that had the first, I think, customs entry that came in electronically or was pre-cleared between London and Australia.
Amazing.
And that's technology.
Yeah.
I remember the first internet. We all remember the whole sound.
The dial-up,
You know, I remember going on a 747 for the first time, the freighter, and seeing horses coming out of it, or exporting live bees to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we speak about the Euros, or we speak about, you know, a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah, no.
All those things.
Formula Ones.
Or Formula Ones.
Yeah.
All
the logistics behind that.
People, right? Yeah. So that's what people don't realise is the variety of it. I also like the fact that in my time, there was equal opportunity for men and women to both exceed and do really well.
Yeah.
They were rewarded based on the skill sets they had. We're really proud of that. Probably 50% of all the trainers we've had are women.
That's fantastic.
In all that time. And they've excelled and they've gone on really well. And the industry kind of takes that on, especially in an office environment. Warehousing may be a bit different, but to be honest, in an office environment, you know, our office alone is 70% women.
Yeah, lovely.
You know, so there's opportunities for, because we're global, your background can be an asset.
Yes.
Where you come from and what you do. If you speak a different language, can be beneficial.
Absolutely.
So all those skill sets, I think, when you bring them in and then you give someone a piece of paper at the end to say that you've worked hard, this means something, and the industry values it and they'll pay you accordingly.
Yeah, that's
it's really satisfying.
Yeah, to
People
see
ring us
that.
up, we've got trainees who are finished, or you've got trainees who are halfway through. Well, no, I'm not going to give you a trainee who's halfway through, but that's what people think of it.
Yeah.
So from that part, we're really proud of it. Obviously, it had its struggles, but that was the motivation. You know, first we thought we'd create more people to come into the industry to try and feed our recruitment company because we didn't want to poach. And in the end, it became 3 times bigger than the recruitment company. But that was my motivation, just to see that opportunity and growth.
How difficult was it when you started to get more females in the industry? And was it difficult? I'm assuming it might have been, but I could be wrong. And is there a difference now? You know, how has it evolved?
When we started, I don't think we had any problems getting women into the industry. Like I said, a lot of the roles are administrative. So I don't think we've ever had any problem getting women into the industry. And like Jo said, we're almost at 50% trainees, males and females. Yeah. And we're really fortunate because most of the companies that we deal with, they're inclusive organisations. Everything's changed. So it's open to, all kinds of people. And I really love that. I find that it's a good industry for everybody and companies are welcoming. So I don't think there's a
so you haven't found that. Has it been that maybe there hasn't been as much interest? Is the interest growing, or are you finding it's really about helping people get to feeling good about being in this industry?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely growing. I think women are more confident to put themselves out there as well.
Yeah.
And I think also the fact that a lot of our team are women as well. I think they feel comfortable that they're in an environment that they're understood as well. So, we're brutally honest with them that the industry is, it's crazy, it's busy, it's consistent. But I think because they get that feedback from us, the people that are interested in it, the women that are interested in it, are quite confident to move forward. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm quite comfortable with that.
Yeah. The issue is not getting women to the industry. The issue is getting anyone into the industry, attracting people into the industry.
Talk to me about that.
That's the hardest thing.
Like we said earlier in the piece, a lot of people fall into industry, and I had a similar experience. Actually, I took a gap year. I was going to go back to uni and study. I took a gap year because I wanted to buy myself a car. So, and of course, fell into the industry. But it's people don't really understand how bigger opportunities the freight logistics industry has.
It's really frustrating, to be quite honest, all right, because there's a perception that freight is just the movement of boxes in a warehouse, all right, which is a very small percentage of what we do in the whole supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And changing that narrative is incredibly hard. Jo's one of the rare ones that she wanted to get into the industry. I'd say if I got 100 resumes, maybe 2 of them would be people who say, I wanted to get into the industry. Right. The rest of them would be, I saw an ad, I went to a careers day.
It's close to home.
A friend of a friend, and so on.
Yeah.
Which is, we've been trying to change that for a long, long time, but we're one small company.
Yeah.
When one of my bugbears is that the industry collectively should be doing something.
I agree.
They should be doing something through media, and have a 12-month long program, whether it's through social media, YouTube, whatever it takes to create awareness, because I think if people knew the diversity and the kind of roles you can do and the fact that you can work globally, and you get paid pretty well. Like we have trainees who finish at Cert 3.
Yeah.
They have no HECS debt. They've got a qualification and they're on 65, 70K and they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
All right. And then they can go off, and if they want to get a degree, and we can go into that later about our partnership with Sydney Uni and a few others, that we know there's opportunities. So, and I was talking to Jo before, once people are in the industry, we don't have a huge drop-off. It's not like people...
They stay.
They stay because usually there's diversity. And when they walk into a Kuehne+Nagel or a WiseTech or a Schenker or a DHL or a small company, and they realise, my God, these are billion-dollar organisations and there's so much scope.
Global organisations,
And they there's so many roles, then it's easier to convince them. But just getting them to come in and become aware.
We spend a lot of time, our team, going out to careers days. We're trying to be as...
The high schools. And fantastic.
So a lot of careers days sort of start from year 10 to year 12. And we're happy with that because we want them to start thinking about it in year 10. Yeah. It's fine. They don't need to come to us in year 10. But by the time they've hit year 12, they've decided that, this is an industry that I'm interested in. I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. So careers days, we're trying to all sorts of different programs with careers advisors as well.
Yeah.
And we do try social media, which is really hard to get into because we can create it, if we don't have an audience,
that's right.
It's quite tough. Yeah. So we're definitely looking for supportive industry to try and help us promote it because it's so good.
Yeah,
there's so many opportunities.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. Do you think this, fell into the industry by accident is a uniquely Australian thing, or do you think it's probably a global thing?
No, I think, I can't speak for everywhere in the world. I know in a lot of Eastern European countries it's not. Germany and so on.
They want to be in logistics.
There's a specific career path. And I know because one of our trainers has German background.
Yeah.
Right, and she had qualifications and she got into it in Germany through a structured career path.
So they actually have all the qualifications as well.
Yeah, you can't just... Yeah. They expect the people who walk... I think it sounds a bit crass, but they value the industry. Yeah. Right, so they understand that its importance
Yeah.
and how critical it is to the economy. This is what it's a touch point on everything, right? There is not one industry that you can name me that somehow is not affected by the freight industry.
Yeah, it's pretty major. And I did look at some stats over the weekend, and I think GDP for, I think, is 2030 or 2035 is estimated to be around 20 trillion or something.
Yeah,
it's pretty major.
Yeah.
So it's global, global economy. It's major.
We've had trainees that have been stationed overseas and then come back
Yeah.
and so on. So we know that's not really the issue because most companies will give good trainees an opportunity.
Yeah.
It sounds. Sometimes I say to Joe and I'd like to get the best instead of the rest.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
absolutely.
people who say, this is something I really want to do and this is why I want to do it and I can see the opportunities. And we just we cut ourselves short as an industry. We just don't do enough to make people aware
the opportunities
that are there,
and what wonderful careers you can have.
Well, the diversity of careers. If you have a look at all the different areas you can work in, and then also the opportunities to cross train, because you can support any department if you're willing to lean in and learn about it.
Yeah.
And putting your hand up as a young person or as a new entrant is the best thing you can do. The more you're exposed to, the more valuable you are, but the more informed you are.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to have when you're in any job.
Absolutely. Amazing, isn't it? Could you give us some insight into an understanding on how the training and how your training programs work? Yeah, just a bit of a journey, insight into the journey of that. And
so what we do is we go through that initial process of an interview. Once you've been successful and a host company is also happy to take you on, we go through an induction process. There's a sign up by the government because you are an indentured trainee.
Wow.
So you have to ensure that all the training contracts and everything are in order.
It's a properly formulated process where the trainee has got lots of protection from the federal government in regards to expectations from us.
Yeah, so you need to deliver.
Employer.
Yeah, there's certain standards you need to meet.
And then they're placed at a host company. They're working there full time. So you're doing regularly a 37.5-hour week.
Yep.
And within that week, you'll have a trainer provide you with a one-on-one session of about an hour and a half weekly.
Okay.
So that trainer becomes a friend, a mentor and a support apart from the training. So all of our trainers have worked in the industry. Yeah. So I think they a lot of new entrants feel really comfortable with that because they can say, look, I have no idea what these people are talking about. We know that Incoterms are overwhelming and starting a new job is crazy. So it's really great that the trainers know what they're talking about. And then you have the internal support at that host company.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
you're working, you have a supervisor and you're working within the team. So you never feel like you don't belong. Yeah. You're there, you're supported by that particular host company. And that's sort of where the training starts.
A lot of the companies... I've had trainees for such a long period of time that they understand the process. So we try and understand the character of the culture of where the trainee is going to be working day in, day out and try and match that.
Yeah, it's very important.
And because the roles are different, they may want a trainee in customer service.
Yeah.
They might want a trainee in cartage. They might want a trainee in HR.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So we have to still align skill sets with job expectations and, what the host employer also requires. They get that hour and a half of one-on-one training, which no one else does. Normally it's classroom or whatever. No. So they get a trainee, even though they may be on trainee wages, which aren't high, okay? But 9 times out of 10, they pay no fees. So there's no HECS.
Yeah.
They get their own one-on-one tutor who does 60 or 70 sessions
That's
over $80. So that would probably cost them $10,000, $15,000 to have their own tutor.
Yeah.
It's during work that's happening. It's competency-based learning, which means there's no exams. It's about demonstrating you can do the job by doing it. So the reason we do that and the reason it's been successful is because it's relatable.
Yeah.
What we're teaching them has to be something that, so vocational
related
training.
to what they're doing.
Or vocational training, which is our space. So you have university, which is curricular, high school. Vocational training is really about employability. It's employability skills. So our job is to make sure at the end of it, they're employable and they've got a career and they can move forward from that.
But what a wonderful way to build your knowledge base, to be working in a job and then also acquiring all the knowledge you need around
And
that.
being
You can ask
validated for it.
and being validated for it. But you can ask, you've got far more questions to ask because you're in there with your sleeves rolled up
And
doing the job.
And you have to remember, this is a really busy industry and a really big industry. And sometimes if you don't have the right support when you start, it's very easy to fall over. I remember when I started, I had an amazing team. I had an amazing boss. I wasn't scared to ask questions.
We had lunch with him 2 days ago.
We did.
Oh, you still see him. Fantastic.
But we were able to ask questions and we were comfortable. But not all environments are like that. So to know that you've got somebody to fall back onto if something's not going 100% the way you think it should be going is, I think, really important for a new entrant.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually very important. Otherwise you lose people.
Exactly right.
What advice would you give to somebody young that's thinking, oh, maybe I'd like to give that industry a try, but I don't know, what's in it for me? Because that's how they, that's what you like when you're young,
Absolutely. I think there's so many opportunities. I think there's so many areas that you can learn about, and I would say to you, put yourself out there and absolutely try it, because even if that very first position isn't the position you love, the person next to you is doing a completely different job, and that job potentially could be yours, or that exposure to that role. There's so many areas for you to be able to grow in and develop and take your skills to an international market. That not everybody can do that. So I say to a young person, give it a try. It's exciting. It's busy. It's an exciting industry, but also you meet lots of great people. You learn about your clients. You learn about your market. And I think to put yourself out there is really, really important. So, I love it. I would say give it a try.
I suppose, they always say that you're going to change jobs 5, 6, 7 times. In our industry, you can change jobs 5, 6, 7 times and still be in the same industry.
That's right.
If you look at all of our journeys,
yeah,
look what you're doing now, what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Like we run a training company, but we were freight forwarders to begin with.
Yeah.
So
I ran around marking off bills like you. Yeah.
where we are now, we created our own business.
Yeah.
Still servicing the industry that we love.
Yeah.
And you can do that. So, as
think
long as...
Think big.
Yeah, and you've got to do the due diligence, do the research, come and ask us, have a look at videos, ask lots of questions. It's really important, right? Because an 18 or 19 and 20-year-old still may not be sure about what they want to do.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. So what we try and understand is what is it they like to do, all right? So some people... Joe said it's really exciting, but there can be jobs that are more mundane in freight that you think I still love, and that's where my wheelhouse is. That's where I want to spend my time. Yeah. Or there's jobs that are chaotic. You maybe want to go into like trade shows or perishables and so on. I remember Joe used to do perishables on a Saturday morning, live tuna to Japan or whatever. If I missed that flight, that tuna just halved in price, and it was chaos. When the stuff that would leave the country, or I did live bees to the Middle East, and every year. Yeah. They needed them there because their bees died and we would have cold ice. And then you do dangerous goods, and then you do pharmaceuticals, like you said. You're bringing in blood for someone who's at a hospital that needs it to live.
Yep.
So there's whole different areas within the industry, that can, I suppose, satisfy most people's requirements for a job. We can't make someone love freight and logistics. It's just something that you've got to decide as you go through that path. But at least through a traineeship, if you can manage it, and it's not for everybody, but we know you've got structure, you've got support, you've got runs on the board, and at the end of it, there's going to be opportunity.
I often tell people that that are starting, I say, don't be scared to be the office idiot. You're going to feel stupid. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And after you survive that first month of feeling like you're out of your depth, it'll all sort of fall into place. You'll start to understand the terminology, and you'll know what people are talking about, and you'll think, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't, think this was going to be for me. So I think you really have to give it a little bit of time to find that love for it.
To settle in,
Absolutely.
and just keep an open mind.
Absolutely.
Treat it as
give it
another
a
adventure
try.
in life, What are the statistics of traineeships? And percentages that stay on with the host, and in the logistics industry to grow a career.
Okay, so of the trainees who commence with us, at least 75% will go to the end of their traineeship. Of the 75%, 95 to 98 will be offered positions by the host employer at the end.
Wow.
Now, remember, a traineeship is an agreement between three parties normally, right? So it's a trainee, it's a host employer, which could be whoever they're hosting. That's why they call them a host, because they're getting the day-to-day exposure, and us. Yeah. Once that agreement is done, which is usually a 2-year period, then all three parties can decide to go their own way or continue on. 9 times out of 10, 3 months before the traineeship's due to finish, we tell the host employer that the trainee is due to finish. The two will talk. They'll negotiate some sort of salary, offering and everything else, and they'll just go from our books onto their books and continue their journey.
Yeah.
If the trainee wants to work for someone else, then great. Then Frontline can try and help them get employment somewhere else, and everyone's met their obligations.
Yeah.
That's why it's a structured pathway. But a lot of times they'll stay with, they've just spent 2 years at an employer.
Yeah.
A host employer.
Filling a role.
Friendships, filling roles. Yeah. Maybe 4 years down the track, they might come to us and say, there's no more opportunities. Can you help me get a job somewhere else?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And we will. But you hit on a good point. One of the other issues that we really have with attracting people is that, compared to 20 years ago, there's an expectation that university is the only way to succeed.
Oh, it's not, yeah.
Right, and as parents ourselves, we've got 2 children in university, we kind of get it. Yeah. That was their pathway, but it's not the only way to succeed.
No,
but the problem is we have to, as an industry and as a company ourselves, have to create an opportunity like that. And we've done that now with Sydney University. So we've got an agreement with Sydney University that any ex-My Freight Career trainee who's completed their traineeship can go straight into their degree program. So we're a Cert 3 and they're a Cert 8. So you're basically going into a last year of a degree. So that's 1 year of HECS debt.
That really says something about your qualification.
Yeah, because they had to validate all our stuff. And we've also now been accepted by the Australian Maritime College because Sydney University is campus-based and we're around Australia. So what do we do for trainees?
I was going to ask, you've got,
Yeah, so because now we have, it's taken us a long time, but the Australian Maritime College, which is the university in Tasmania, told us last week that it's just going to legals now to get contracts signed. And any successful My Freight Career trainee can go into an undergraduate or a postgraduate, depending how many years they've worked in the industry. So at least now we can then go to careers days and parents and so on, saying you can still get a degree, but you can do it this way.
Yeah.
And they're online, so that's accessible to any of our trainees Australia-wide.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah,
fantastic.
No one else does that within our space.
No one does it, So you're okay, so they can go on and get a degree if they want to.
If they want to, yeah.
It's their choice. And a lot of times the actual employer may even pay for it.
Yeah.
They may say, great. Like I know there's some companies that, will make them sign an agreement when they work with them saying, okay, we'll pay for your studies, and if you stay with us for 2 years, then great, fantastic. And if you leave, well, that's between them and whatever.
Yeah, whatever they
do. But
a
lot of companies will see, if you've just done your traineeship, you've succeeded, you now want to get a degree, we'll support you on that. So,
so you see a lot of that happening.
It's just trying to create that pathway, an opportunity for them to say there's another way to get to that, what they think is the holy grail of having a degree.
Yeah. Not everyone's cut out to
and
go to uni.
You don't need it.
No.
It's
you
not
don't need it.
Yeah.
For a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And, really, the reality is that because we're a global market, if you get a degree in Australia, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a job in Singapore.
That's right.
Or in America or so on. A lot of times it's just being able to be in that ecosystem that we're in, and they see that performing really well. And a lot of companies have their own internal training or offerings and so on.
They do.
As long as people offer the opportunity to continue to learn.
Yeah, I think that's
grow,
definitely the secret, isn't it? Yeah.
That way it doesn't become stale.
That's another thing we haven't touched on. I don't know if it's somewhere in the path, but we do existing worker training. So just not new entrants.
Yeah, we were going to, that's right. So it's not just new young people out of school or new entrants into the industry, because it doesn't have to be young. It could be anybody really, couldn't it?
Driven by the industry. They would come to us and say, all these new trainees are getting all this training, but what about us?
Yeah, okay. So you're doing ongoing training for
we
people
do.
in the industry.
So
what sort
definitely.
of training is that?
We can do tailored training. So we have a few companies that come to us and say, okay, we want to upskill our customer service team. So they know what they do really well, but we're not 100% sure about what happens in freight forwarding. How can we better serve our client? So we'll go into that in more process. So we'll tailor something for them. It could be a sales team. They're really good at what they do, but sometimes it creates problems for the operations team.
Right.
The sales teams are upskilled as well. We also do exister working training in the form that, similar to the traineeship, they can also get the qualification, but they're employed by the host and we purely provide the training. So sometimes that works better for the organisation as well.
Yep.
So there's a number of different models that we work by.
Oh, okay. So that's that's kind of like a synergy, isn't it?
We've got both accredited and non-accredited courses online. So during COVID, we developed a Freight Forwarding 101 course. That we wrote and we developed. So it's a 3-hour self-paced course.
Do you two sit down together and write the courses?
No.
Our trainers are far more equipped than we are. I come up with the ideas and say, please make it work.
Yeah, because you know what industry is wanting or what's needed, right?
And we did that because during COVID, a lot of the teams, or, it could be a stevedoring company, then wants to learn freight forwarding.
Yeah.
So they know stevedoring, but they don't understand this part of the supply chain.
Got it.
So we created, you get 7 days to complete the course. There's an assessment at the end. It's self-paced. It's only $200.
Yeah.
About over 600 people do it. And they've been really happy because we wrote it and we developed it, so we know the market. It isn't an off-the-shelf product. Yeah. We do other stuff. We've just won a tender with the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator to write a chain of responsibility.
Huge. That is huge. Yeah.
Specific course. And I have to give them credit because they said that what people don't realise is that heavy vehicles are part of the supply chain.
Yeah.
So a lot of freight forwarders might think, well, no, I've contracted that out, not realising that their obligation, if they're the people who have part of that supply chain and that's part of their service, then
they've got an obligation.
So, so this will be available for free for about 18 months when we finish writing it and developing it. Again, it's going to be fully online. So we're trying to always, service the market with stuff that's relevant and that's needed.
Yeah.
We have short courses and we have accredited.
Yeah.
A lot of the buzzword micro credentials and little skill sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do them as well when they're needed. But we try and find out why they want that training because, the reality is that people don't want to be taught something that they don't think is relevant.
Yes, of
course.
It's
not going to help them with their job or their future. Trainers hate to train people who don't want to be trained.
Of course.
When companies, we always say we want them, and we do surveys to get feedback to make sure.
Really tap in. You make sure you are delivering what's needed.
And we get the feedback. Did you learn something new? Was it of value? Was it over? Because otherwise it doesn't serve a purpose, and you won't get return business. And then
absolutely,
the people themselves, their reputation is what makes us, last so long, I guess, in the industry.
And that chain of responsibility. And the other thing in this industry, there's always regulations or laws that are changing constantly. I mean, we're talking, we're talking cross-border and
it's quarantine, customs.
Their legislation is like that. There's always changes. So
we just went to an industry association conference.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and even my head's like going, wow. You got cybersecurity, then you got other threats here. That's just that's why I always say freight forwarders hate change because they've got to deal with it every day.
Every day, it's true.
There's always one phone call.
It is true. There's
change. Anything. It could be a pothole on the road.
Yeah.
It could be an aircraft pallet that wasn't packed properly that doesn't make a flight. There could be
a
myriad of things they need to deal with.
Yeah. And there's always a new use case or something new you haven't come across before. So it is a really dynamic industry in that sense. But that chain of responsibility is huge. And it isn't just the guy in the truck driving the truck. It's everybody linked to
and it's really important because it keeps us safe. We're just regular drivers on the road, and without people taking responsibility or accountability, then we're all at risk.
Absolutely, absolutely. What does the host? Why would a host choose to support a traineeship?
Because I think as an industry, we have a responsibility to create opportunities for people to enter our industry. All right, because the reality is that we're not going to all want to work in the industry forever. We want to retire, we want to move out, and we need to create pathways. Now, house clerks don't exist anymore.
No.
Compilers don't really exist anymore. So we need to create structured pathways that allow people an opportunity to have a career. So I think that the industry as a whole has to have space for traineeships. We're not saying we're the only way. You can go to university and get a degree. You can just get a job directly. You can come through other pathways. You can get a HR degree and then work in HR and learn about freight. But if we don't create opportunities, then what happens?
Well, I know you're left with a huge hole, and how does a business run if it hasn't got the talent?
So then what happens? Wages go up. Yeah, because you have no one to fill the roles and people have to work more hours and you have more stress. And then what happens? You offshore, you use
that's
technology. That's
not always the answer though, is it?
No, because it serves a purpose. I'm not saying it doesn't, all right? Because certain roles maybe can be done offshore and certain roles can maybe be done by AI and robotics in warehouses. Yeah. But the beauty of what we do, we all know it's dynamic and it changes. So you need people who can go in there, look at data, look at information and make a decision based on what they see.
Yeah.
A lot of host companies choose the traineeship because it's structured. They know what they're going to get. They know the support we can give them as well as the trainee. So the opportunity and the chances of success is a lot greater. So I think everybody feels well supported with the program being so structured and having been proven for so many years.
Yeah, it's proven success rate.
Exactly right.
People know that it works.
Absolutely.
So, all right. What's your vision for the future? Is there lots more to do? What are you thinking?
I think we have I don't even think we've started to really promote the industry. Yeah. I think we're doing well with what we do, but I think if we all sort of pitch in and promote the industry more, I think we have so much more opportunity to have a well-trained, well-balanced industry and workforce. And I think, I think we've just started, really. I think we've got so many opportunities. There's a lot for everybody to do.
Lots to do. Yeah, I hear. That's and I know you talked about it a bit earlier on. You want to leave a legacy. And this is what you want to leave for the industry, this legacy that we've,
Well, the reality is, like I said, when we started, there was no freight forwarding traineeship. It didn't exist.
Yeah.
3,000 odd qualifications later, and the impact it's made on the people that, sometimes we sit there, we don't realise ourselves because every day we just do our job.
Yeah.
And we'll get a phone call, or we'll get an email, or we'll see a post. Matthew at Hindi, another ex-trainee, really, really good, sent me an SMS yesterday. He's got 3 kids now. He's a sales director.
Oh, isn't that
and
lovely?
they still say thank you. So when you have that validation that you did it for the right reasons, and that when you tell people that you can actually have a really good life by doing this, we'll help you. We'll help you through this path, and then we can lead you into whatever. And you see them become successful.
Oh, how rewarding!
It's really rewarding. You do. You sit back. We don't do it enough, I don't think. We just sit back and actually think about it. Yeah. Sometimes I look at old photos of trainee get-togethers and where they are now and what they do and how successful they are.
And I don't think it stops at the end of the traineeship.
No.
We often get trainees call us up for advice or let us know what's going on, or we're dealing with them in the organisation that they're at that time.
Yeah.
And you almost feel like a little bit of a proud parent to see your child all grown up in this big professional role. So it's really rewarding.
So it's like, being in the industry, you build, as you said, lifelong friends, but these people are like your family.
Absolutely.
They become part of your family.
Yeah,
right?
you watch them grow and have children and build their own lives when they've started from these skinny little teenagers.
We've got 3,000 children out there somewhere.
Gee, you've done well for you.
You've
done well, you too.
It's like our own Hillsong, but we're not a charity, so it's all right. But no, it's true. The legacy's already there. You know what I mean? It's just now, how do you maintain it? How do you keep its integrity?
And get everybody behind it
And get
to
everyone
see
behind
it.
it,
Yeah, to
you
see it
know.
really grow.
And
'Cause
that's a
it's,
challenge, is that?
it is a
It's a
challenge
challenge
because a
because
lot-
it's moving faster.
A lot of companies are driven by decisions that aren't theirs in Australia. So if
Yeah.
a company says, "Oh, we've got a recruitment freeze, no more trainees," it's like, okay, but yesterday you wanted 3. You know, so that sometimes it's hard to control the market.
Yeah, I could understand that.
So that can be a frustration point. You know, the other point is, again, attracting talent. You know, sometimes when we get the orders, we want to be able to fill them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just take time because we can't get enough
You can't get enough people
into the industry.
That's amazing.
And
So
that's-
you have the demand is there. There's
and you go through peaks and
there.
troughs sometimes, and that is a frustrating thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
say, yeah.
To be honest.
That's where
That
getting
goes back to that awareness that I'll say.
yes, we're getting the message out. You know, it's a great industry to be in. You can build an amazing career, and the opportunities are kind of really endless, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And you know, you could even travel the world with some of these qualifications and still work if that's what you wanted to do.
I've been able to travel a lot because of what we do and what I did in freight. Jo's done lots of travel overseas when she was in freight forwarding as well.
Absolutely.
So it really is. It's, I suppose, like an industry. If you excel and you do well at it and you're passionate about it, you know, your opportunities will create themselves.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And this helps. All this sort of stuff that we're doing, even though we're not comfortable, it's not our comfort zone. It helps create awareness.
We've definitely put ourselves more out there because we know that something needs to be done.
Yeah, we've got to get the message out there to people so they can, you know, if you don't know, it's, you know, you just don't know what you don't know, do you?
Exactly.
So this is where social media and some of those outlets can be really handy in getting the
they're
message
critical.
out. Yeah, they really are. All right. What I'm going to do now is we tend to have what's called a quick fire round of questions, right? So just going to fire a few of those off, all right?
Good luck with this one, Jo. I'm sure you do really well.
What advice would you have given or give your young self?
Oh, I can do that one. I think about this all the time. I think take every opportunity. Don't be afraid. Don't be too cautious. I think if there's an opportunity given to you, I think it's your responsibility to try it. And if you hate it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you know what it is. You don't have to think about it in 10 years' time and think, you know what, I really could have given it a chance.
I didn't. Yeah,
I
maybe I
didn't give
should
it-
have. Maybe I
exactly
shouldn't
right.
have. Yeah.
So I say absolutely lean into whatever opportunity you get. Try it out. If it doesn't work, great, it doesn't work. But you can say you tried.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of failure.
Don't be afraid of failure. Oh my gosh,
You
that's a
know,
huge thing.
I say to my children, fail well.
Yeah.
Because that's
I
going to
agree.
be your best lessons in life. And, you know, when you fail well, you learn well. So,
Well, that's how you learn, right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you usually learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely.
You know, you learn a lot more from when things go wrong and you've got to pick yourself up and you think, okay, what happened? What did I learn from that situation for it not to happen again?
Yeah.
If things are always too easy, you know, you don't
You're not really
learn.
resilient. You're not really,
And that's one of the
learning,
issues that I spoke about. They asked me, what's the difference between trainees or the young cohort now and the ones 20 years ago? And I just said the word resilience. And I don't blame them for it,
No.
all right?
Yeah.
If you want to ask me, our first lot of trainees, some slept in their cars
Oh, wow.
just to be given the opportunity. And now they're senior managers and they're excelling, they're doing well. They had no other choice.
Yeah.
You know, the reality is that only the last year or so things have become tough. Interest rates have gone up, price of living, all these things have
Cost
happened
of
in the last
living,
18 months.
Yeah.
But we had a period there where it wasn't like that. So there was no need for that level of resilience. You know, unemployment was like 2%. They could get jobs tomorrow.
Yeah, interest rates were low, you know.
Changing a bit now. So I think that is a big thing. But that's the cohort we need to work with.
Yeah.
And we've got to help them and give them the skills to do well. But what I say to my young self, I'd probably be a bit more courageous. I mean, I took a lot of risks and I went for it. But I had some self-doubt in certain areas. So I think Jo's right in that area. But when you're young, you know...
you've always got self-doubt.
Yeah, you're always worried about how you're going to be perceived and what's
Yeah.
going to happen if you make a fool of yourself.
That's right.
But yeah, there wasn't too much because I took a lot of risks anyway to want to grow and get out there.
Yeah.
And I was thrown into a lot of stuff. And like, yeah, guess what? You're now
Great
the
way to
export
learn.
manager, and if you don't learn, you've lost your job. So
Yeah.
that's another good reason.
Sink or
Traineeship.
swim.
Yes.
But that's you
That's how
learn
it
to
was
swim
done.
very quickly,
Yeah,
don't
and
you?
if you
Yeah.
didn't, whereas obviously traineeships are very different.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. What do you do to relax, guys? I mean, you run an amazing business, and it's all time consuming.
Whatever Jo
no
tells me.
doubt. What do you do to relax?
Whatever my wife tells me, all right, and my daughters tell me, and then I'm relaxed.
Oh, you're lucky, man. Surrounded with all the girls,
know.
beautiful girls too.
Yes,
of course
they're
they're
very
beautiful.
gorgeous. We love to travel, so we definitely try and get away as much as we can. But I think Joe sort of potters in the garden and I like to read, and we definitely cook. That's not always for pleasure, but we definitely cook. So that's our downtime.
We
Yeah.
train. We
We
train
train,
together.
yeah.
We do a lot of things together as a family.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I know this
Team
morning
you
there
are.
was 3 of us at the gym, me, Joe and my daughter.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Sounds a bit
we
like
made
my
a pact
family.
when we started the business that we'd always have time with our kids.
Yeah.
So it's one thing I can say that they're probably sick of us because we've taken them to school every day and been there for everything
Yeah.
we could. So I think that's really important. That's like, you know, even though it's chaos when the 4 girls get together and I'm sitting there going, what's happening here? Because I had 2 brothers.
Oh, you're from an all-boy family.
Yeah, and Jo's got 5 sisters.
Oh,
so she's used to that kind of chaos.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful to see. It's like watching an
Yeah.
Italian opera.
Yeah.
So I find that kind of, you know, relaxing and chaotic and
Yeah.
stressful at the same time.
Yeah.
But Joe's all right. We'll travel, you know, we'll go for walks. We'll just
Yeah,
find, we'll go out
nice.
dancing. We'll do what we can just to.
Lovely. Oh, I love that. You
have
guys
some
dancing,
fun.
fabulous. Yeah. All right. Well, what's your favourite holiday destination?
You can decide for all of us.
No,
You probably have a few, do you?
I do. Sorrento in Italy is my favourite place in the world.
lovely, yeah.
It's just because I do nothing there, and that's
You just
my
sit on
very
the
Everybody
beach,
at the
worry
Hilton
about the
knows
next
you.
drink and the next, yeah.
Everybody
all
at the
I worry
Hilton
about.
knows that.
The
Oh,
next-
Josephine.
the next meal. But yeah, we that's Sorrento is my favourite. What's yours?
You know, it's funny. Anywhere, I mean, because I've got an Italian background, so obviously I find it easier to relate to Italy. But we went to Turkey for the first time and I loved it.
Oh,
It was
fab.
just
Yeah.
crazy and fantastic. And, you know, the Greek islands are also different. So I just think anywhere experiencing things that are different are really important. But, yeah, I'd say still Sorrento because we know the town. We know the
Yeah.
people in the town.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
it's like a second home.
It's
so when we
like-
go there, we
yeah.
just chill.
Yeah, lovely.
Which is nice.
And,
And
the
the girls
summers are
love it.
great, aren't they? Yeah, and the beaches and the
And the
waters. yeah.
gelato.
Yeah.
The gelato and the bread rolls.
So much.
What are you? All right. What are you reading at the moment?
Reading.
I'm
Oh,
doing Audible. I haven't got time to read.
Do you know what?
Listen.
Yeah, yeah.
I do
know
a lot
what
of-
you mean, Joe.
I do a lot of true crime.
Do you really?
Yeah, I absolutely love
What worries me.
true crime.
Got rid of a husband this way, got rid of a husband that way.
But that's my interest, my secret interest. I
Oh,
love,
you love-
reading
that's
about.
really-
I like to understand what's in people's minds. Like,
Yes.
why are you doing this? What
Why-
can we
what-
do to change that? What could have been done
Yeah.
differently in your upbringing? So I find that really interesting.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Because
Yep.
it's like a human study. It's,
Absolutely.
how'd you get like
And now the youngest
that?
daughter
Yeah.
wants to be a criminologist, thanks to you.
Yeah, maybe forensic psychology. So
Yes.
we'll see.
Brilliant.
I
Yeah,
can help
brilliant.
her out.
Yeah, you absolutely
They
can.
had some great discussions. Me, I sometimes I just, even fantasy or not, just to escape the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to do those. Otherwise, I'm
well-
very curious. I want to know if it's going to be a book, not really self-help, but more about understanding stuff that interests
Yeah,
me. Doesn't matter
yeah.
what it is, whether it's about nature or health.
So you're
or,
learning.
yeah. I'm just, sometimes I just want to know why. Sometimes it gets me into trouble because I'll just ask direct questions and
not a
I
bad
seem to
thing.
get away with it with my
Yeah,
personality.
yeah,
But yeah, it depends on how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, music. We listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, music's always great and relaxing, isn't it? I'm backtracking a bit because I feel I didn't ask you. Was COVID a tough time for your business?
If it wasn't, you know, and I'm not sitting here saying ScoMo is the best, but if it wasn't for some of the stuff that Liberal government had brought in, with JobKeeper and so on,
Yeah.
I think we would have lost easily. Because at any one time, we might have 80
was tough.
100 trainees that work for us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. And when COVID came, we've always prided ourselves on being very agile
Yeah.
as a company, very lean, you know, because you got to with the industry.
You do.
But we just, every day was just, we survived. But JobKeeper helped keep probably 95% of our trainees in jobs
Fantastic.
because they were
yeah.
like $1 an hour to keep a trainee on.
Yeah.
You know, so why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And the industry really didn't want to let anybody go. There
were
wasn't
really
that many
They needed them.
redundancies.
The industry was, you know,
Yeah.
Booming.
booming. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
But
it was a
initially,
consumer-led
initially they did.
economy.
They worried
yeah.
because they all thought doom and gloom,
Yeah.
not realising that when
Yeah.
people are depressed, they either drink, gamble or spend money.
Yeah.
So they spent money. So obviously Everyone bought toilet paper
It was
and went
booming.
crazy.
It was
and
booming, couldn't it? Yeah, the volumes were.
DHL had 6 freighters a day and it was chaos, right?
Yeah.
So, we went from being, oh, my God, what are we going to do, to how do you get a trainee in COVID?
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. We look at each other sometimes because we worked within 5 kilometres of the office.
Yeah.
So we were lucky. We could go to work every day and the kids could have the house to themselves.
Yeah.
So we enjoyed that family time together, to be quite honest. But for a business point of view,
I think we were really fortunate that the industry supported us and we were able to maintain all of those trainees.
Oh,
I don't think we lost any.
yeah.
If anything, we might have had 2 or 3 rehosted, but it wasn't a problem. So we were very lucky, and it also was a big learning curve for us to see that we could provide a lot of online training, one-on-one, but it absolutely worked and everybody still felt supported. Yeah. So it wasn't a great time, but it wasn't horrible either.
Yeah, we have some of our trainers, most of our trainers are mums that work permanent part-time, that work from the industry, and they love it. They're very empathetic. Women are they just have a lot of empathy and understanding. That's why they're very nurturing when it comes to traineeships.
We're very fortunate to have amazing staff, whether it's from our admin to recruitment to our trainers to our auditing and compliance. Everybody we have, I'm sure I've forgotten somebody, but they're amazing and they're dedicated and they love what they do. Yeah. And without them, we wouldn't be here and there wouldn't be a traineeship. So we're very fortunate.
We're lucky. Our compliance manager, she said to me, I didn't remember this, is quite embarrassing actually. She goes, Joe, you know that you're the first person who ever gave me a job in the industry, and I don't remember interviewing her. So that was kind of embarrassing. But she's working.
We see a lot of faces, I guess.
She's in Germany. She lives in London now.
London, she's in London.
And she does our compliance from there full time.
Oh, fantastic.
We've got one of our mums, she's got a farm about 3 hours from Sydney. Yeah. She's been with us for 15 years. She does all the training from there. So some roles during COVID, the industry accepted that you can actually do the same level of service.
Yeah, didn't matter where you were located. Yeah,
we did have
because we did have to become more agile, didn't we?
Yeah.
And so there's the hybrid working model has remained with us, which is more flexibility, especially if you have a family.
It's changing. I think a lot of companies now want like 4 days in the office, because I think productivity for certain roles work better
in the office,
as a collective, because you need instant decisions and whatever. But
and you need to hear what's going on. And
because you learn, right? You're working as a community, and I think that's incredibly important. Like from our recruitment team, you can see they work better when they're all there.
Yeah.
But trainers, they've got their portfolio of trainees that they manage. They still get together once a week as a collective and talk about all things training.
Yeah, they impart knowledge with each other.
So that all still happens.
Yeah.
So
that is important still to see people, isn't it? Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much. I think you guys are amazing and what you do is brilliant for the industry. So where can hosts and trainee candidates and just companies who want to retrain their staff find you?
Okay, well, we have our website, which is the My Freight Career website. You can find us online. We're on social media. And you can call our office, of course. LinkedIn, YouTube. Everywhere. We're everywhere. And we want everybody to tell your friends, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters how good freight forwarding is, how fun it is, how much you're going to love it. Just tell everybody, because somebody's bound to listen.
Yeah, and get the word out that there's so many opportunities to work and have a career as soon as you leave high school, or even
it doesn't matter
halfway through another career, whatever it is.
They were talking about the new airport, the new Aerotropolis.
Yeah,
big buzzword, but it's massive, right? So that within a few years, how many roles are going to be there? So a lot of some of it doesn't matter where you live. Yeah, I understand someone's rural can be difficult, but then you have Newcastle that is also becoming a big port. We're up in Townsville; they're trying to do more. So the one thing COVID did teach us is you can actually train and teach. You don't have to be always face to face. So there's opportunities in different areas. So some people say it's too far, I can't get there, or
So
distance.
there isn't any place that you couldn't offer. You don't believe you can offer
Well,
anyone.
no,
Don't be despondent and say no. I live in the country, so I'm not going to be able to do
Yeah,
anything here.
I mean,
Put your hand up and
yeah,
ask
just
the question.
There's certain roles that you may
Come and
be
talk
a
to
bit
us.
more
Yeah.
difficult, but like I said, you've got the new airport out, and don't forget we're also in Perth, we're also in Melbourne, we're also in Brisbane.
Yeah, nationwide.
Yeah.
Yep,
'Cause
fantastic.
a lot of our clients have got offices all over Australia.
Yeah, so they can find you LinkedIn, YouTube,
Yeah,
Instagram.
we're on
Facebook.
Instagram.
Yeah. And just our regular
So,
website.
and your regular website, My Freight Career.
Yep.
Okay, well, thanks again. You guys are great to chat
Thank
to.
you.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
inspirational. And we'll wind it up there, but you can also find Joe and Josephine and My Freight Career on the Freight Directory listing, and the Freight Directory listing has also got is also linked on all the social platforms: LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and more. And you can also find our podcast on all your favourite platforms: iTunes, Spotify, and more. Thank you very much, and for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us. I wish you all the best, and I certainly hope that our connection with you guys can also help get the word out as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.